Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar with Mimecast. My name is Mallory Buttram, and I am the marketing coordinator with the Impact Growth Group here at Keller Schroeder. I'll be facilitating our webinar today and monitoring your questions in the chat. As a reminder, everyone was muted upon entry, so please post any questions you may have in the chat and select either all participants or all panelists when sending any questions. Please be aware that after the webinar concludes, everyone will be unmuted for the beer tasting portion. And then a super quick rundown on how today will work. I'll introduce our team of experts on the call with us. I'll hand it over to Mimecast, who will do the presentation portion. We'll answer all of your questions after, and then we'll turn it over to our friends at Kapow for the beer tasting. So before I introduce the team, your free gift for attending today's webinar is a beer stein. If you stay on during the duration of the entire webinar, your Keller Schroeder account manager will be sending you one of these. As a reminder, if you do not currently have a Keller Schroeder account manager, or if you're unsure of who your account manager is, please request for someone to follow up with you after the webinar concludes. So our wonderful experts joining us for the presentation are Scott, Corey, and Michael. So our presenter, Scott DeLuke, is a sales engineer at Mimecast. And a little bit about Scott. Throughout his last 15 years, Scott has acquired a strong appreciation and understanding of how IT organizations operate from end to end. The various roles Scott has owned within traditional IT as an infrastructure architect, sales architect, desktop support lead, and a manager have proven to be invaluable to his progression as a security professional. Scott's passion to develop and encourage colleagues and friends has cultivated the person he is today. A father, student, teacher, advisor, and a dedicated advocate for his growth in personal life and what has become a steadfast and unwavering career as a human. Scott is also honored to be a 2019 and 2020 Eagles Club member, a four-time Mimecast Sales Engineer MVP, and of course, best father ever. Corey Ainscoe is the Director of Information Security Services here at Keller Schroeder, and Michael Miller is an Information Security Consultant for Keller Schroeder. And without further ado, I will pass it to Scott, who will take over for the presentation.
He's just logging back in.
Awesome technology, love it. All right, I apologize about that. I was getting some things fixed up on my end. Give me just a moment and I will share out my screen and we'll get started. So first off, I'd like to thank everybody for having us here today. I'm really excited not only to be here with you guys, but also to drink some beer with you guys. So even though I can't see a giant show of hands, I would love to know when everybody can see my screen.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, perfect. So I don't want to spend a lot of time diving into slides as we do that all day. There's a lot of things that we do inside of our day-and-day activities today that involve Zoom meetings, being on camera, seeing each other, and that's fantastic. But the reality is a lot of times we spend it just in slides. So I'm going to try to make this more of a practical, real-world presentation to show you a little bit more of the power. And those powers involve not only things about Mimecast, but it also involves a lot of the tools that you use today. Now, some of those tools may include things that you never even imagined could be interacting with other tool sets. May they be things inside your infrastructure, other cloud solutions, or even using managed service capabilities as well. In today's activities, we're all distracted with different things such as our children, work from home, working with people in very close proximity every single day. So having that extra hand, watching our backs can really make a big difference. And not only then they can help us watch our backs, but they can also help us interact with some of these attacks. Now, just when we're talking about Mimecast, Mimecast is a small ecosystem in a much larger security world. In fact, there's around 2,600 different in people out there who are actually doing security. And a lot of these vendors are fantastic. So why we focus on a very small piece of the infrastructure, I'm going to kind of touch on how we can help, but also how you can leverage a lot of other things that you already believe in and trust, including those who might be able to leverage those tool sets for you. Now, Mimecast, as security has evolved over time, so have we. Being a cloud solution, we have started to look beyond the traditional things that you would include as part of your security posture. Things like gateway security, archiving, web security have been around for a very long time. But being ways to sanitize inside your environment, looking at internal email security, and then things beyond your perimeter, such as how are people using your brand out there in the web? How are people using your brand as far as your domains at the DMARC level, the DNS level? Things that traditionally have been out of our control, we're starting to reel those in and giving you capabilities to not only control them with simple clicks of a button, but also be able to potentially take them down on your behalf. We also have capabilities to allow managed services to do all of these actions for you. Now, this is just a small piece of Mimecast, but Mimecast has a larger story to talk about today. And that's really the partners that we work with every single day. Schroeder is one of those partners that helps us really break into the space to start working with a lot of the things that you see today in your environment. May they be ticketing systems such as ServiceNow, firewalls, CrowdStrike, different endpoint solutions, Splunk, Phantom, and even Logarithm. Logarithm is one of our trusted partners here at Mimecast, which we can create actions both inside and outside, meaning that not only your organization could go ahead and control threats, but also so could a MSP on your behalf. But today I really want to talk about how this really works in a real world environment. I'm going to kind of walk through a little bit of how an attack may happen to you and the different ways that you can quickly pivot across different parts of the Mimecast ecosystem and also leverage some of those outside sources as well. We're going to be talking about things from your outside perimeter, how we can protect from the inside, how web security can tie into all these things, as well as how we can protect your brand using managed services as well, as Mimecast not only supports managed services, but we also offer them internally. And finally, how those API ecosystems can really simplify a lot of your complex infrastructures today, may they be on-prem or cloud-based solutions. Now, it's really easy to talk about and show a big diagram, but let's kind of break it down. You know, when we're talking about cloud solutions, we're working with a lot of different incumbents. And when we're talking just in email, it could be Office 365, Exchange, G Suite, even those still stacking on Lotus Notes, as there's still $1 billion industry out there. Mimecast is just a small cloud amongst many other clouds that exist inside of not only internal, but external infrastructures. And there's many different types of solutions that you may have. The problem is this is what we're ending up with, giant graphs with a whole bunch of solutions and they don't work together. But using APIs and the power of different solutions, we can start to tie all of these things together. We can share threat intel. We can double check attachments. We can even automatically remediate different things from inside your environment, including blocking things not only inside of email, but even at the local machine level. Now, with that being said, let's start diving into a little bit about what this looks like. Now, I'm going to kind of take off my traditional IT guy hat. I'm going to throw my sales engineer, and I'm just going to be a user for a minute. I receive a message in through Mimecast. Now, there's a lot of things you're seeing on the screen, ways that we can not only train users, but ways that we can make identification of threats easier, not only to the visual eye, but also reactionary. When I receive a bad email in and it is found to be malicious through some system such as Mimecast, we can mark these messages. We can make it very apparent that these things are not only suspicious, but we can also block with a simple click of a button. Now, beyond the simple clicks of a button, this can add this to a blocked senders list, so you know your users are instantly protected the second that they smell something quote unquote fishy. But you know what? There's always the bad guys, or there's always the users who don't really care about your internal security and they just want to go, 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 go. So let's talk about some other things that we can do. Now, smart users will know that they're getting tracked, so they may want to forward a message out to their free mail. But you can put administrative controls around that to prevent that from happening. Another thing you can do is if you have a suspicious message, most likely any URL inside of that will be suspicious as well. So yet again, you can alert your users, hey, you're clicking on a message in a suspicious message. This is a really bad idea. Now you can 100% block this if you like, or you can use our protective engines to make sure that they're still going to be stopped at the gateway. So I'm going to be that bad user, and I'm going to continue anyways. It's going to go out and run a deep evaluation and may even make me pause for a moment and ask, hey, I clicked on a link. It's sending me to this crazy thing right here. Do I think that's safe or harmful? I've already proven that I am not a good steward of security, and that's fine. So let's go ahead and just say safe. Again, sorry, this link is harmful. Now, I've given up as a user, but things have happened in the background. Your SIM has been alerted that not only a security event has happened, but what security event has happened, what domain has been sent to you, what URL has been clicked. You as an administrator have also gotten an alert inside your organization saying, hey, we have a new click inside your organization. Would you like to check it out? And it's a simple pivot is going to something like a URL protection dashboard. And as you can see in real time, it shows me exactly what I clicked. Now, I not only get what I clicked inside of that email, but I also get what choices are made. If I went ahead and continued, such as my user awareness, it shows that not only did I see a bad URL, but I also decided to continue with it. Again, showing that those are different areas that I need to approach this individual to adjust their thinking around security. But even using things such as browser isolation, which is a new offering through Mimecast, we can give admins a real-world view into a conversation that we can go ahead and show you exactly what that end user saw. When they went to that website, this is exactly what came up. And really, what this is showing, since they were using Mimecast Web Security, that site was blocked. So we knew not only were we protected from our URL protection, but had they gone there, copied that somehow, and pasted it into the web, it would have blocked out in web security as well. Now, this system doesn't matter. It's 100% agnostic, whether it's through email security or web security. I did think I saw a flash coming up about Gmail. Gmail plugins are coming down the road, so that is something that is on a Mimecast roadmap, but we can talk about that a little bit later. Now, as far as everything else you see here, all of this is supported, whether you're using any incumbent solution. Now, I've now determined that I know what this user's clicked on. I've seen what they've tried to do. Now, what do I do at this point? How do I interact with this message? Well, I can go to my threat remediation, and I can drop in either a file hash that was found on that message, or I can go by message ID. Either way that I want to, I can search for those messages and see an entire list of all of these messages. These messages will allow us to see exactly not only who is getting these messages, but why I need to remove them. The first thing I need to do is export the results so I can understand who my most attacked people are, and then remove the message. When I click on removing the message, I can also pivot. If I'm using Mimecast web security, I can also remove from local devices. And local devices are PCs, Macs, and also my iOS devices as well, as our security agent will exist against all three. I can even dictate the time that I want to remove from those devices. Say somebody's on vacation for a week. When they come back, as soon as they turn that machine on, it's going to go ahead and search their internal device and remove it. Now, at this point, I have gone in, found out the attack vector, validated what the URL was, seen that I was blocking into both web and URL security, and also removed it from my environment. But it doesn't always stop there. There are other things such as brand exploit protection. Our MSOC team has just alerted you that you have gotten an attack from that same domain, that 228@dropbox.com. And they're going to ask you, what actions do you want to take on this? You can see live exactly what types of attacks have happened. These attacks can be easily remediated either by clicking on different approaches here, which will block across your domain, block across any URLs, or Dropbox as well. And if you want to 100% take that site down, we can also take down websites within minutes to hours. The last piece I really want to talk about here is how do we pivot to end users? Wrapping in our awareness training, we can also look up that attacked user and see where they sit. What is their performance and what is their risk score to my organization to know if I need to create more or strict user guidelines against this individual and how I need to approach them into the future. Now, all of this stuff is interesting when you're talking about using it as a Mimecast piece, but there's a whole other piece that comes to it, and that's going to be the managed services. If you were using managed services to maybe collect all of this data from Mimecast, you could use a system such as Logarithm. Logarithm is going to be monitoring every security event that's happening in your organization. When a security event happens, you can easily pivot to these events. These different pivots are called smart responses. Smart responses are going to give you the ability to do different actions, and they're continuing to grow all of the time. For the action that we just did, that was a bad URL, they would just choose block URL, select the URL they wanted to block, and then it blocks it across the organization. Again, zero touch from you, but something that somebody else could do for you and on your behalf. So again, these systems all tie together in a very unique way. We need to find ways to take all these separate tools and wrap them in together to make one solid ecosystem, not only to save time for our administrators, but to give us quicker response to any of these potential threats that may happen now and into the future. And with that, I would like to stop and pause. I noticed there were several questions that came through, and just say thank you very much and stay safe.
Thanks, Scott. The first question I have is, what is the feature called that shows the suspicious message notification in Outlook?
Excellent. So for Outlook, currently today, we do have a Mimecast plugin. The Mimecast plugin will give you not only granular access to your archive and your other tool sets, but it will also give you the capability to add more administrative controls like you saw in the explanation, such as the forward or block.
Awesome, thank you. Bill wanted to know too about Chromebooks.
Yes, so that's a really good question. Chromebooks are something that is going to be coming here shortly. We are going to have remediation for Chromebooks as well as iOS devices. There has been some issues with the way that they are designed, but we are very, very close. I believe the launch dates are going to be April of next year.
Awesome. And it looks like we have one final one. If you have any more questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. The question is, how does Mimecast determine if a link is bad or malicious?
Great question. So we use a multi-step process to be able to do that. Not only when a link comes into your environment do we do a deep dive analysis of that site, if we find it at the time safe, we are going to create a rewrite. That rewrite is going to allow us to, whenever that URL is clicked, may it be today, tomorrow, or 6 years from now, we can run a deep dive of it inside of our data centers. That data center analytics is going to look at fish kits, PowerShell, PostScript, JavaScript to determine to see if this link is safe or not. We've also integrated things such as being able to scan a web page, looking at labels such as if you have a Microsoft sign-in page sitting in a Dropbox, we can now determine if that's malicious. If we see a Google site that's not sitting in a Google URL, we can start using some of these characteristics to determine if these sites are safe or you should be blocked. And even to go a step further with browser isolation, we can allow your users to go to some of these more suspect sites, the uncategorized or the brand new sites that have just popped up, send them to a safe browser where they have no interaction at all with it. So if it happens to be something trying to grab their credentials, we can prevent that from happening as well. Great question.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. It looks like we did get one more. Andrew says that they currently have the ADA add-on for their Mimecast. The user awareness training dashboard you showed looked a little different. Is that a different product?
Great question. So no, it is not a different product. This is something that you guys are getting to see for the first time, pretty much. This is going to be our new dashboard. It should be releasing to you guys in the next few weeks. This is something that is in beta on our side. And since you are part of that, I just did want to point out one thing in this. The Safe Fish is coming. And the Safe Fish means that basically anytime that anybody clicks on a URL or gets a phishing attack that has been validated from Mimecast, it's instantly going to show up inside of your awareness training. So you don't have to create templates anymore. You simply go to that real world attack, create a template, and send that out instantly. We call this Safe Fish. Feel free to hit me up after this, and I'll send you over all the information and the exact release date for your territory.
Awesome. Thank you. It looks like we don't have any more questions. If you guys do think of questions as the beer presentation goes on, feel free to drop them in the chat and we can get Corey or Michael or someone from the Keller Schroeder team as well as Scott to get with you after the presentation. We did get one more really quick, so we'll go ahead and answer it.
Awesome.
Emily wants to know if this integrates with other cybersecurity trainings like KnowBe4.
Absolutely. It really depends on how you're using KnowBe4. We like to work with anybody. And what we mean by that is, depending on the types of integration that you want to use, there's two different flavors of KnowBe4. We have plenty of customers of Mimecast who love the KnowBe4 platform, and it's a fantastic platform. We can go ahead and work with their phishing report button to do the same types of alerting we can inside of Mimecast. So if you do love KnowBe4 and it's working fantastic for your environment, I suggest stick with it. Work with it as long as it possibly can. The Safe Fish capabilities are going to be part of a Mimecast exclusive awareness training platform piece. But again, we want to be able to make sure that the tools that make sense to you can make sense with us as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. We're on a roll now. Is there an API for QRadar?
There is, and I'm glad that you guys brought that up. I will drop in the chat to everybody here in a little bit a link to our API system. We can API into anything. We not only have a full open and available API dev kit. By the way, all this is 100% free. There's never a charge for APIs, but we work with QRadar, Logarithm, Splunk, Rapid7, Alien Vault, Exabeam. I can go on and on and on. Some of these we're building with them. Some of them they'll be doing on their own. And if you have a smart dev in your environment, they can build whatever they would like. And we would love to see what they come up with.
Cool. Thank you. Let's see. We have you experienced any compatibility issues with any versions of Outlook?
Good question. So we support Outlook 2010 and up. So we support 2010, 13, 16, and 19. It does work on 2007 just fine, as I tested a lot on the back end, but it is not officially supported by Mimecast. So we haven't really run into it. We are a gold partner with Microsoft, and we do work very closely to make sure that our integrations are one-to-one. This is a good time to point out, if you're not a plugin person, we just released what we call Mimecast Essentials. Mimecast Essentials is actually an Azure or Microsoft Store application to make the push extremely easy. There's no download, but it gives you the report capabilities that you would get with the plugin across Microsoft Outlook, Microsoft Online, and also the Microsoft application on your phone, whether you're Android, Apple, or even still carrying around that BlackBerry.
Perfect. Thank you. It looks like that was it for now. So I do want to thank everyone for being on for the presentation portion.